And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the 21st of November, 2019. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome. Welcome as you all come in. I'm having to start a little earlier this morning because I have a ton of things to do, one of which is to get ready for this evening. I am going to do a nightcap tonight at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time for all of those of you who are interested. Now, it's going to be something I kind of touched on before, but I think you're going to want to see this. When I did my religion series, I talked about it. Let me show you what it is that I have coming up, okay? Here we are right here. I'm just going to blow this up, and I think you'll all be able to see what it is. Now I'll get over here so that you can see me. Okay, so what we're going to talk about tonight is the Shroud of Turin. A lot of you might say, oh, no, we don't want to do this religious stuff. Let me tell you something, okay? With all the information that's come out lately about, and I've covered some of this along with Michelle Anderson, we've heard about it from CERN and other places about interdimensional travel, all the information on UFOs and all that, you're going to want to see my take on this, okay? I think you're going to like it. It's both. It'll come from both a spiritual, not religious, but a spiritual side, but also a technological side. Okay, so I think you're going to want to come for this. I think it'll be very interesting. Basically, our most important part of the program will be the interaction between you folks and of course myself. So we'll open the chat up and we'll have a real good discussion about what this is really all about. We'll talk about some of the scientific anomalies and disagreements. And I must say, just so that you know, on the negative side, most of the things that have been said negatively about the shroud to try to take away from its authenticity have been really poor arguments, okay? I don't want to say debunked, but really that's what it comes down to. So that's what we're going to do tonight, 8:30 p.m. I'll remind you again at the end of the show that we're going to have this on the Shroud of Turin tonight. And I think you'll find it fascinating with what I have, okay? And my take on it, for what it's worth. All right, so that's the first thing that we're going to do. Okay, let me go to chat and make sure that everything is working there. And as usual, am I 5x5? If I'm 5x5, that's great. I just need to know that. So it looks like everything's okay on this end. We are having a storm here. We've been having it for a day now. However, it seems like the connection's working pretty well. So if you'd let me go, great. Thank you, concerned citizen. I appreciate that. So I will monitor this situation here on the screen, and I'll get to chat shortly. Let's go over some things. Why did I call this, Are the American People a Force for Good? Because I think we've lost a lot of that. We're either complacent, we're scared, we want the government to do everything. We expect that our representatives and the president and our DOD and our police and all these people, we hire them to take care of all these things. Now, under the Constitution, that makes sense. Maybe not so much the police, but the whole idea is that the government will do its job and protect us. We don't expect it to turn on us and be our enemy. Worse, or as bad, I should say, we don't want to be used as a force for evil in the world under the pretense that we're doing something good. You know, I know there are a lot of probably Navy people out there, but I just want to point out that every time I go to a theater and I see, or it's even on TV, I've seen it on occasion, where it says the U.S. Navy, a global force for good. And I'm sorry, it just hasn't been. Our military has been misused for so long, and I can say that. I was a part of it for 28 years, one way or another. I saw the ins and outs. I'm not saying we don't have a right for a defense. We do, but unfortunately that's not how it's been used. The situation that's been going on down south in Bolivia, for instance, Yugoslavia, and I know there are pros and cons to that. Look what we've done around the world. There's some real problems with the way that we've been used. So, in other words, if we are a force for good, you need to start standing up. You need to start doing something, not just basically hoping that your representatives are going to take care of it. Now, I have said not to do anything offensive, right? Then I stick by that. But we have to push people like President Trump and others that I call competent authority at the state, county, and local levels to stand up. We see some, the bad side, the leftists, have these sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants, right? Well, now we see some places, some good places, sticking up and saying they're sanctuary cities against federal red flag laws. That's what we need, okay? We need to stop being divided and divisive and come together on these issues. And it's going to balkanize the country. I mean, that's unavoidable at this point. And I've told you that. This division that's taking place is not going to be turned around. There's not going to be a political solution. It's going to come down to a balkanization, and it's going to be serious. President Trump's not going to be successful in uniting the country. I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen. The only way this country will be united is by force. Nobody wants to see that, but the leftists will certainly do it. Okay? There's no doubt in my mind. That's their history. Look at it. People, these youngsters that are coming up and others in our institutions, especially our educational institutions, hold up socialism and that form of government as something to be emulated. You know, they really like China, they like Russia, those types of things. The fact of the matter is more people have been killed under their own people under those systems than any other. Now, how do I bounce that against President Trump declaring the Insurrection Act? Because he's trying, obviously, he's trying to reinstitute, at least by his words, not so much his actions, as you know. I've been concerned about that. The idea of reconstituting, of regenerating the constitutional republic of the United States, holding the bureaucrats accountable. They're not the elected officials. They suggest policy based on all of their research. Do you understand how that works? Then they present it to the elected officials who make the decisions, and unfortunately it's the other way around. Obama was a puppet for the deep state. He just rubber stamped everything pretty much. I mean, there were a couple times he stood up, but really not anything significant. Okay, so despite all the problems I have with Trump, he is doing that. Okay, he's standing up and he's saying, no, this is not right. And the deep state has come after him. In the description box below, I was going to wait to do that, but I think I'll go ahead and do it now because it's that important. In the description box below is a YouTube video I would like you to see if you haven't already. Most of you probably have. It's from former Kentucky governor, I think he was Kentucky, Governor Huckabee, Kentucky Huckabee. Anyway, and he gives a very good short dissertation of about 5 minutes where he says Trump is forcing the deep state to surface. And this is a great, very short, right to the point gem to share with others and to also, talk with your neighbors, your family, or whatever. Because he just does it so well. He's not like me, he doesn't lose his temper. I've never seen Huckabee lose his temper. And he's very articulate. So I'm going to play that for you here. I could not get it on my OBS this morning. It wouldn't go. So I'm going to play it on my phone. I'll hold it up. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but we'll try to work with it. But I want to play it here because I think it's that important. And of course, fair use is involved here. This is to provide us with a way to comment on what he says. So let's go ahead and listen to this. And again, you can actually get the link in the description box below. This is very important because I think it tells us everything that's going on and why. So here we go. I better go to the OBS and make sure that I'm pointing this thing in the right direction. Okay, here we go.
Well, you hear a lot about it, but is there such a thing as a deep state? You bet there is. And though it's been around a long time, it's never been as obvious, as identifiable, or as desperate as it is now. Now, the deep state is not really so much left or right, conservative or liberal. No, it's more about protecting the self-serving institutions of government at all cost. And the reason it wasn't obvious, or that you never really heard much about a shadow government that really ran things, was because no one had ever threatened their power. Administrations came and went, both Democrat and Republican. And for all the fiery rhetoric during an election, only minor policy changes ever took place within administrations. The notable exception was the more disruptive policies during the Reagan administration that actually were successful in ending the Cold War. Not just ending it, but winning it. Now, the experts of foreign policy then, they hated Reagan. They sought to undermine his aggressive stance against communism, and frankly, behind the scenes, they leaked stories to the media to make it appear that Reagan was a dangerous, ignorant cowboy that were going to cause America to get into a nuclear war. But his 8 years were actually the most peaceful in several generations. And his instincts to defeat communism, rather than to merely coexist with it, proved to be right. Donald Trump represented a very real and a different kind of threat to the deep state establishment. In the past, even a president with clear principles was still dependent upon the same donor pool to get elected and stay elected. And the donor pool that funds the status quo has typically been able to keep things pretty much the same, regardless if the leaders are Democrat or Republican. It was good business for what President Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex. Well, along comes Donald Trump, who funded his own campaign with his own money. He's the first president in my lifetime to get nominated and elected without being owned and obligated to the mega donors of the DC power circle and the special interests that they represent. That independence is a clear and present danger to the swamp rats of Washington, and they are fighting back with a vengeance. So when you see a parade of diplomats or military people on Trump-hating CNN or other media outlets, never forget that an underlying mandate of our constitutional republic is that the ultimate power is to be vested with we, the people. There is a glaring reason that a civilian president is the commander-in-chief of the military, and that foreign policy is solely vested in the president, not in the career bureaucrats and diplomats of the State Department. No one, and I mean no one, elected the bureaucrats or the government employees or even the generals to make policy decisions. You see, our founders wanted the power to wage war and to deal with foreign governments to be led by those elected by and therefore accountable to the people. Anything else, we'd be ruled by unelected and unknown bosses who didn't choose to stand for election. And because President Trump has openly defied conventional norms for conducting military and foreign policy, the entire deep state has come undone. No one has ever threatened their ironclad control, and they're going berserk to preserve and to protect their kingdom at the expense of yours. So just remember this one important truth. The deep state hates Donald Trump. They will stop at nothing to impeach him, defeat him, and destroy him. But what they really fear is that you will find out about them and demand that the deep state gets dismantled and that we have a government that really does exist for and which serves we, the people.
Okay.
Thanks so much for watching.
That is just too important for me not to have played that. I just have to give Governor Huckabee a lot of thanks for doing that because he says it so succinctly. And remember, the deep state doesn't just hate Donald Trump. They hate you trying to get your country back, trying to get your country back, trying to reinstitute the constitutional protections that the government, by charter through the Constitution, is supposed to give us that we already have because of our mere existence, our, as the Constitution calls it, our unalienable rights. So, at any rate, I'll just leave it with what Governor Huckabee said. Again, the link to that video is in the description box. And I think it's just a great short 5-minute gem that can really tell people exactly what the situation is. And there'll be people who disagree with that, of course. There are those who do not believe that that this government should be of, by, and for the people. They'll use the rhetoric, but they really don't believe it. And we see it every day. And again, that division is getting worse by the day. Despite everything that you see, it's not getting any better. I'm really surprised, and it might be because I'm just not seeing it, I'm not looking for it, but I'm really surprised that Antifa, for instance, hasn't been more active. You know, we keep hearing that they're going to unseat Trump and all this. I'm not sure what's going on. They're controlled, obviously, by Obama and Hillary and those people, actually, Soros. And so Obama and them came out and said, Obama and I forget who the other person was that says, let's hold off, we're going too far left too fast. Well, that's the issue. It's going too fast. They know that they're causing us to want to stand up. They're not backing off. That's not what Obama's talking about, and I think you've heard other commentators say that. This is a tactical thing to take your mind off of what's happening, to think everything will be okay, that they're giving in. They're not giving in. They're holding back because they want to come in by surprise, okay? And that's the real issue here. So it's not going away. It never will until one side or the other is defeated, and that's really how it's going to be, ladies and gentlemen. And that's just a fact. It's very sad that we got this way. The people in our government, I look at this Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, and I'm totally disgusted. Somebody, when I did that little thing on him not too long ago, somebody came out and said, well, he's not in the White House anymore. They threw him out. If you were watching yesterday, he's taking pictures of himself with his twin brother outside the White House. Maybe it was the day before. No, it was yesterday. And nobody at DOD, General Milley included, told him that he couldn't go to the hearings in his uniform. They let him do it again, which is a signal, as I've said before, and it's very troubling. Not only is this guy a liar and a doofus, and he is a doofus, but this doesn't look good as far as the optics about what's going on for the rest of us. For the deep state, it's great. It's the military's behind us. That's the signal that's being sent. Remember I told you, McRaven and these guys switched. They became vocal about not supporting Trump anymore and about reinstituting the deep state control because they believe they're going to win. And their plan is proceeding, despite the fact the impeachment is a joke. As I've said, it doesn't matter. The impeachment is nothing more than cover to do what they're in the process of doing. That's all it is. And everything else that they do will be backed up with that as well. But this thing with Vindman wearing his uniform, some people say, well, gee, Oliver North wore his uniform. Oh, gee, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff always wears his uniform. I got to tell you, there's a difference in how you wear it. When you're in there in uniform, you're speaking basically for the commander-in-chief. You don't have a right to institute your own policies. That's not your job. Okay? You can argue in the staff meetings with your commander, but once the decision is made, you cannot go against that. That's called mutiny. And Vindman, wearing his uniform, was trying to pretend that, well, he wasn't pretending. He was actually making the statement, as I said, that the military is actually behind the coup. That's really what the message is. It wasn't in support of his commander-in-chief. Okay, that's not what he's doing. This is a divisive situation. I heard a lot of arguments. Don't disparage a military guy. Are you kidding me? What did I just say at the beginning of this broadcast? How our military's been misused. Okay, and they don't fight about it. Even if they don't believe what they're doing is right, they don't mutiny. If that's the case, the officers resign. They go off, and they should anyway. The NCOs can decide to drop from their enlistment contract. There's a price for that. But the point is, you don't do that. Okay, you just don't do it. You resign first. And so all you got to do is look at this guy, and you can see he's a problem, and I don't mind saying it. Oh, I shouldn't be attacking a military member? Sorry, folks. Yes, I can, and I will. He's a disgrace. Absolute disgrace. Wearing his military blues uniform, well, that's not necessarily the problem. It's that he's in uniform altogether. That's the problem. He's in there to testify against his commander-in-chief and not in a military setting, not in a courts-martial, they say, well, impeachment of the president. No. That's not how that works. As I said, he's in violation of Articles 92, 98, 88, and a bunch of others, okay, from what he's done. He should be brought in and given, at the very least, non-judicial punishment, but nobody stopped him from wearing his uniform again. The deep state and the military-industrial complex and the Pentagon thrive on wars, destruction, force, and not for good. It's like I've said many times, there's a quote from King Arthur in Camelot. He says, what do we call this? Might too right? No, that's not right. Might is right? No, that's not good. I know. Might for right. Exactly. but we haven't been there. They know that, and they've twisted the language and they've lied to us to make us think that that's what's going on, but that's not what it is. They believe that might is right. Okay, that's what we're dealing with. Second thing I wanted to bring up also is Tucker Carlson gave also, I don't have it in the description box, most of you have probably seen it, but he gave a very good dissertation, I think Alex Jones played it too, of the difference between the way the FBI and the Department of Justice treated Epstein and how they've treated Stone, Flynn, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, this shows you, I mean, can you imagine the Department of Justice and the FBI being kind and generous to Epstein and then treating Roger Stone and General Flynn the way they have? Just to name a few. I won't beat that dead horse. I think everybody understands how bad this is, how evil and corrupt the DOJ and the FBI are, and I'm not convinced that Barr is fixing a damn thing. I heard Lionel yesterday, and he says, where's Barr? What's he doing? How come Ghislaine Maxwell hasn't been indicted and arrested yet? I'm not saying that she hasn't been indicted. I don't know. And I don't think Lionel knows. But the point is there's no action on it. And again, as we pointed out at the time, what the hell was Epstein even doing in the MCM? What was he doing there? He should have been under very, very strict surveillance, even in a prison setting. And I blame Barr for that, and Trump, actually, because they handled that. Well, Trump handled it with lax hands. Barr, it may have been a manipulation by him to protect his buddies. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it looks to me. Remember I said, Barr's whole concern is saving the institutions, okay? And I'm afraid to say that those institutions also include, and I don't want to accuse him of anything, I'm not doing that, but he's protecting people. Again, look how they treated Barr or Stone compared to Epstein. And as it sits right now, Flynn should be, that should have, Barr should have come out and said, we're dismissing the case already. There's too much prosecutorial misconduct, et cetera, and also misconduct by the FBI and maybe criminal activity. He's done nothing. Why? Because Trump wants it to play out in the media so everybody sees the corruption. Again, as I've said, you go too far down that road and you lose the initiative. But we'll see. I think what I would say at this point is if Barr and Durham do not put bracelets on some of these characters no later than the coming out of the OIG report. And frankly, I think it's ridiculous to wait for that. But okay, I'll give it to them. Okay, that's a public relations thing. Okay, they want to do it at just the right time with the impeachment process going, and they'll unload this and surprise the whole public saying, "Oh my gosh, look, I got to see it to believe it." Okay, Barr's covered up too many things in the past. His speech the other day at the Federalist Society was real nice. I hope some of you watched it. I agree with him, but I'm not sure that in his lawyerese he's not trying to pull the wool over our eyes. Honestly, that's how I feel, and I think a lot of people do. The Barr-Epstein snafu, FUBAR, and those of you in the military, you know what those acronyms mean, is embarrassing, because it shows that either Barr is complicit or he's incompetent, okay? And as far as the FBI investigating, and now charging the guards that supposedly fell asleep with falsifying reports, and that's what they're going to go with. Now, that's the surface thing. Is there something else going on underneath and you're just waiting at the right time? Look, ladies and gentlemen, we're tired of this. We're tired of the games, of the politics, of the public relations to try to manipulate this. People, if you're going to go after Stone and Flynn and etc., and Assange, by the way, I will not leave out Assange. If you're going to do that to these people who have presented absolutely no physical violent threat to anyone, but you're going to allow a violent, and that's what he is, a violent criminal like Epstein and his entourage off the hook, which is really what happened. And if he was murdered, no matter, I don't care if he's alive, living somewhere, or staged his death, or if he was murdered or suicide. That's as far as I'm concerned, although there are important parts to each of those, that's really not the issue. The issue is he's not going to be around any longer to point the finger. He's not going to be able to testify against people. That's the real issue behind this. All the other arguments are just ridiculous. They were successful in taking him out one way or the other so that they could keep people like Hillary, Podesta, the Bushes, everybody safe. Prince Andrew, look what happens to Prince Andrew. He's in the doghouse, and rightly so. This should have happened a long time ago. I think it's interesting how they're saying, oh, Charles is really upset. Are you kidding me? Andrew's covering for Charles. And knowing how the royal family works, Andrew isn't going to say, hey, but you've done the same thing. He's not going to do that, okay? He's just going to go away. That's what's going to happen. But you look at Charles, are you kidding me? No. Okay, so that's a real problem that Barr still hasn't acted. I'm going to tell you what, ladies and gentlemen. If the 11th of December comes, say the 12th, and nothing's happened, I don't think it's going to. Okay? And a handful of people, low-hanging fruit, even if they get McCabe and Comey, they've got to get a lot more than that. And I'm not going to spend some time here and explain that to you again. I've done it enough in the past. If they put on a show to satisfy us, sort of like, the gladiators, get a few bloody, or at a hockey game, so many people they want to see blood, and I've seen that a couple times. Some in the audience, unfortunately. If that's all they want to do is placate us like that, then this is not going to get fixed. And Trump has to make sure that the right things are done. And again, I'm not certain where he really is. His problems with the First, Second, and Fourth Amendments are immense to me, and I'm very concerned about it. But that's not where I'm going to go today. I do want to mention Assange one more time. Free Assange, absolutely. Free Roger Stone. And Flynn needs actually a pardon. I'm not even interested in a pardon for Flynn. The case just needs to be dismissed. And Sidney Powell has done an absolutely fantastic job on that. There's no reason for Barr to allow that to go forward. There just isn't. Again, optics, they're trying to bring all this out. Okay, fine. But you look like cowards to me, Barr. Cowards are complicit. Okay, I've already mentioned Prince Andrew. He's definitely in trouble there. I've already talked about Assange. I'm going to bring something up here. I'm not going to say anything about it. Very little. But I want to show you a couple of pictures. I'm not going to talk. I'm not going to make any kind of comments of any nature, okay? But I want to point out that this happened in Salt Lake City, in Utah. Let's put it that way. And you all should know my feelings on this issue. Why am I not going to address it in detail here today? Am I worried about YouTube taking me down or censoring me? It's not that. It's at this point, I want to save it for a time and place where I can explain it in detail, because it will not stay up very long. It will not. And it could bring down my channel, which is probably going to happen in mid-December anyway, because I'm not financially viable, commercially viable, as they now describe it. But this is one of the reasons why our society has faltered in the last few years, and it's a big one. I don't care about the PC stand. I don't care. I don't say that these people should be hurt. I don't say that that they need to be discriminated against, other than we don't need to be promoting it. That is destroying us. Look where it's taken us. There were members of my family who were very much against my position on this, and I pointed out that this is going to go down the road to even worse things like pedophilia and child sacrifice, etc. And that's what happens. Not saying that, regular people aren't capable of that as well, but this is the control mechanism. So I'm going to show you these pictures. I'm not going to say anything. This happened on a Salt Lake City news channel, okay? Utah news channel. Just look at it for a minute. I think that's long enough. I think you get my drift. Are the American people a force for good? Are they? Or are they so open-minded that they're not even willing to admit when evil stares them in the face, threatening to devour, and I use the word swallow, them and their children under some pretense of political correctness and diversity? You can be so diverse that you destroy yourself. You know, there was a situation, I mean, this happens all the time, but you might remember this story. There was a young man and his girlfriend that were living in Alaska, okay? And they were living with the brown bears, okay? They were friends with the bears. You know, they thought that they're going to show their magnanimity and their openness and their love of nature and all that, and they ignored the real danger. In their minds, they just said it didn't exist, that it's okay. It's going to be okay. So they were living with the bears. Do you remember this story? Well, one day, the bears got hungry. And that couple exists no longer. Rescuers, searchers found their bones later that had been picked off of all the flesh, everything. Because they ignored the danger. They tried to be diverse. It's a good way to look at it. Another example are the ladies that went to Morocco, you know, suspending all common sense, all judgment, because they didn't want to appear politically correct. They didn't want to appear prejudicial. What happened to them? Yeah. And there was also a couple, I think it was in Pakistan. A hiking couple that did the same thing, a man and a woman. When you ignore obvious evil and try to make it palatable, you're playing with fire. And again, I have members of my own family that are diametrically opposed to me on this issue. But they're a lot younger than me and they haven't seen as much. And they've been indoctrinated in this crap in the public school system and elsewhere in the media for a long time. I'm not saying that people that have these feelings, I'm not talking about pedophilia now, I'm talking about this other stuff, are necessarily bad. Sometimes you have to, even youngsters have to work through their, what they are. That's not the issue. The issue is promoting it and demanding that it be extant, accepted in such a way that it can become perverse, like, for instance, the drag queen things that the government is pushing in our schools and libraries, etc. Okay, well, that was in Utah. Wow. And that's not the only thing. Things have happened there in Utah for a long time, and I won't go into that, but that just shows you how far down we have gone and everything else that goes with it, but I don't want to bother with that. Okay. So that's my presentation for today. Again, I just wanted to come on. There's another reason why I wanted to do this. And I might do it, pop in again, like, I do with my impromptus, but there's some other things happening that, if in fact they are going to take a lot of us down, I figured, I had to spend some time with you while I have the chance. You'll notice I'm wearing, I might explain the background. It goes along with are the American people a force for good? Are we willing to do what's necessary? Again, under competent authority, not an offensive way unless you're under competent authority. Are we willing to stand up and say no? Are we going to build more sanctuary cities that stand against the encroachments upon the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the laws that are to protect us and to help us to grow and prosper? Are we going to do that? Are we going to follow the example of these places that the Democrats do it and they don't get any trouble? I mean, have you seen any mayors, any governors arrested for violating federal laws on immigration on the sanctuary cities? No. Again, Trump talks and he doesn't do anything. Barr doesn't say anything and he doesn't do anything. And gives nice speeches at the Federalist Society, right? Nice speech. That's all I hear is talk. Oh, the timing, Roy, it's got to be timing. I know, I know. I've already covered that. Okay? I'm not going to go there again. You know, words are meaningless unless they're followed up with timely action. And timely action has not occurred, and it's long past due. Okay, again, the background will symbolize, I showed you an eagle flying into the wilderness one day, and I said, it's time to start making your preparations. Pull away from society. Jesus, I'm going to bring this up. I talk about it in my book, The Crimson Thread. We might even talk about it tonight a little bit. He went to a place called Heliopolis in in Egypt when he was young, and he went back there several times in his adult life as well. The actual name of the place in Egyptian is On, and I've explained before that it means the same thing as the word Beth Shemesh, which is also a place not far from an old town called Emmaus in Judea, in Palestine, where they had special instruction. Let's put it that way. A place where he went to learn a lot of things. They even had a temple there in On, in Heliopolis, one that was built by a former high priest because of the problems they saw with the Jerusalem temple and the corruption and the other problems that were there with the Romans and the Herodians. I talk about that. The Jews of today don't want to hear about that. They don't want to talk about it. They want to just talk about Jerusalem. And I added a little bit of information on a video not too long ago where I explained that the original location for the Ark of the Covenant was actually in Shiloh, and that there has been a researcher that has pretty much proven that at this point, and that Jerusalem is not the place. Mount Moriah is not the place. It's actually near the old city of, or the old area of Shiloh. But that's not something I'm going to get into a whole lot of detail here. But I just wanted to bring it up because that's what the idea was in that one where I showed the eagle flying into the wilderness, getting away from the evil and preparing. When Jesus went to On, unfortunately, On had become a very perverse city at the time he went there. He saw the really, really good, like we're seeing today in the United States, and he saw the really, really bad, like we're seeing in the United States and around the world. On was a place where all of this came together. And he went there for learning, experience, but then he went out on his own. Hence the eagle out into the wilderness and preparation and all of that. This and my camouflage shirt are a message that we need to get aggressive, but not offensive. Not in the offensive mode. Do you know what I'm saying? Again, what I'm saying is we need to push our representatives, our government officials into standing up against the unconstitutional encroachments that are being made. And you'll say, well, gee, ballots never work. Well, they have worked. The pressure has worked in some places. Again, I point out the situation with different municipalities and counties saying that they're not going to accept federal red flag laws, etc. That needs to go, and that's constitutional to stand up like that. It's not constitutional to go against immigration, illegal immigration. That's not constitutional. It's a nice opinion, but it's not constitutional. So anyway, again, the message here is, are we going to be a force for good? Are we? I'll leave that up for you to answer. Okay, let's go to chat for a few minutes. It's only been 40 minutes. Like I said, I kind of want to do these just to kind of make up for, if I end up getting tossed out of here. Oh yeah, Finest Planet. I saw that. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, they hit it in a spending bill. The Patriot Act is extended for another 3 months. See what I mean? This just keeps going. Patriot Act should have been repealed a long time ago. Yeah, Congress did this on the sly yesterday. Yeah, And they also, remember, on the sly in the NDAA 2013, I think it was, repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, which prohibited propaganda against American citizens. They did that first, and the next year they funded the CIA making the propaganda against us. Congress is nothing more than a rubber stamp for the intelligence community, and that's why you see what's happening right now. No, I don't trust the Senate to find, if the articles of impeachment are done, whether or not they're on evidence or not, it doesn't matter. If it goes to the Senate and they vote to remove him, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Boom, he's out of there. It'll either be a shooting fight, and that's probably going to happen before that, or it's just going to be a mess. But I don't trust McConnell. You know, Mitt Romney is in there. You know, doing all his stuff. That's why I put that little quick impromptu up yesterday, because I see a problem, and Starr mentions it. Okay, and some people say, well, no, Starr didn't say that. He was just saying what Schiff said. No, 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 no. Starr is a Bushite, and the Bushes don't like Trump and what he's doing because he's interfering with their power and their money. Don't kid yourself. Why do you think Ken Starr went after Clinton on the Monica Lewinsky deal, on a sex thing in the Oval Office, instead of, you know, going after the really serious stuff like actually giving our navigational technology to China for intercontinental ballistic missiles? You know, that was, sex is the thing that sells the American public. They don't. That's the tantalizing thing. They don't understand that, you know, weapons are being sold to our enemies to be used against us. And they let him off on that. Wow. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Okay, I spent too much time on that finance planet, but I had to go there. Andrew should be in the gulag. Yeah, freedom fighter, I agree. Trump will not do anything, from Jeanette Smith. Trump will not do anything. He had almost 3 years, and if he was going to do anything... Well, Janet Smith, you know how I feel about that, and I can't disagree with you. I think he's lost the initiative. I think he has. Everybody will say, though, no, it's coming to a head now. You know, I hear Dan Bongino. As much as I like Dan Bongino, I get so sick and tired of hearing the cheerleading out of that section. But Dan Bongino's he's never studied, or he's never seen a real coup in a third world country. He has no idea what he's talking about. They don't need a reason to impeach you. They just do it, right? It's gone to that point now, and they've got the military behind them now, which I think that's escaping Bongino altogether. And I love Dan Bongino. I love his analysis and stuff, but he's missing what's happening here, in my opinion. Yeah. But, as I've said many, many times, you know, this is building to a crescendo. Do I trust Horowitz? No. I certainly don't trust Barr. Durham, I don't know. And even if Durham does the right thing, will Barr allow it to happen? I don't know. Trump is not in control. I think we all know that. And he loaded his place up with swamp creatures, and people will say, well, he had to do that because he's outing them. And I've said, as I've said many, many times, well, then Eisenhower should have brought Himmler into his war room. There's just a point at which this is getting ridiculous. Yeah, Karen Wilson. Yeah, Prince Andrew said doesn't sweat. Code for no sweat. We're clear and free. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. They know who's in control. Trump doesn't have. I mean, why hasn't Prince Andrew been prosecuted? Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, these things. Barr. At any rate, I agree. Yeah, they know that the controllers of the governments are going to protect them because they're all involved. Again, are the American people a force for good? Are we? And what are we going to do? William Mansfield. See, this is indicative of a lot of us. Trump and Barr, lots of talk, no action. I agree. Haven't I been saying that for 3 years now? Not 3 days. I've said it so many times. Not 3 days after Trump got elected, and he was in an interview, and he was asked by the reporter, "Are you going to prosecute Hillary?" "Oh, I don't think so. They're good people," and I knew what I was looking at. I mean, he didn't even have to answer that. He could have just said, like he said in so many other things, "Well, I don't know. We'll see." But no, he even had to go the next step and say they're good people. He's trying to placate him. He's trying to, whatever his reasons, it was the wrong thing to do. Okay, and now look where we are. Look at what's happened to his supporters because he wouldn't go after these people. And yes, I know it's dangerous going after, as Monograph calls them, the light lords. I know how dangerous that is. But we have no other option left. If we want a world for our children, if we want to go, as Alex says, to the next level, which we're going to talk about tonight, I think you'll find this fascinating, on the nightcap tonight. If that's going to happen, we've got to do something now. The window of opportunity is closing. I don't give a damn what anybody says about the deep state is on the run. No, they're not. And China's about ready to cut our genitals off. Oh, they can't do that. We can take them on. You don't know how. Look what's come out in just the last few days. That there are these foreign citizens, these foreigners that have come into our technology companies and have been forwarding all of that stuff to China. In other words, they're spies. And our FBI, oh no, they're worried about ranchers out in Nevada with their cattle on grazing and trying to steal their land for Harry Reid and Hillary Clinton. That's what they're doing. Oh, they're investigating the guards in the prison, but they're not investigating Clinton. They're not this has come out. What about the Finders thing that finally came out? Why did they sit on that for so long? Oh no, you see, it's about subverting and it's about suppressing the perfect law of liberty and the American people. That's what it's about, and that has got to stop. And Trump can't play the game anymore. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll leave that alone. I know I beat that down every single time. Melvin Leroy Harris, you've made a couple of different things. You've talked about Article 13, and then you've talked about, are you referring that's to Trump, that he's received these things? Or are you talking about somebody else? It doesn't help to just load this stuff on there. If you're saying that Trump is guilty of some of this stuff, nope. It's another one of those things where they're throwing wet noodles up on the wall and see what sticks. That may not be what you're talking about, so I'm not going to get real adamant about that. But no, that's not happening at all. Tom Benedict, I understand there's no justice, act accordingly, and I've said the same thing, but that doesn't mean to get offensive. That just means to know what you're dealing with. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground, keep your situational awareness, and get prepped, pray, and stay out of the way. The eagle flying into the wilderness, right? Wow. Yeah. I haven't looked into this. Vince Palermo is asking me about what my sources say about the underwater explosion in South China Sea. I don't have any sources on that. I have no idea. It wouldn't surprise me that the Chinese did a test. They're building atolls, islands out there, and creating artificial atolls, islands. Who knows? I don't know. A submarine that blew up. I don't know. There's a lot of speculation. Most of the time, we're never going to find out information about that, even from so-called sources. I don't know. For all I know, and this would be funny, the CIA has submarines. Maybe Trump took one of them out. Well, we should start that. Yeah. Let's start that gossip, right? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Mike Guyver, I agree. How many kids are still going missing? That is only an act for Agenda 21. Yeah, they've seized, they raided in Utah a child trafficking network. It was, I think, about 30 people. They're grabbing the low hanging fruit. They are. But the big fish continue to escape. Epstein's a primary example. And how they treated him again. How Stone, was he a threat where they needed to raid his house with his wife in there and all that, with weapons and tanks and aircraft and boats? What? But not Epstein, not Epstein's Island, where they. This tells us everything we need to know. And frankly, and I'm going to say it, if Trump has the cojones and they go down this road, they need to execute everybody from, and I'd say, yeah, they need to try. And I know how hard this is going to be. I'm not kidding myself, but this is what they deserve. They need to be tried, and if found guilty, they need to all be executed. Everybody from Obama, Clinton, Mueller, Clapper, Brennan, all of them, because that's what they're protecting. Absolutely. But I'm not in the driver's seat. And I'm a little impetuous. As an Army officer, I was, and even as a police officer, sometimes, you have to go with your instincts. You just have to. And most of the time I was right. But there were a couple times I wasn't. So, I understand where Trump is. But again, I've said, desperate times call for desperate measures. Marine Corps Staff Sergeant, you're saying, what? He's a traitor. I don't know what you're talking about there. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I'm missing some other stuff that's going on here. Yeah, December 12th was the last day for Pelosi to call for impeachment. And of course, they've already, now they're going to have Horowitz come out on the 11th and testify. And supposedly the IG report will be out by the 9th, I think they're saying now. Again, I don't care. People need to be arrested. Until I see them in handcuffs, I don't believe a damn thing. I just don't. So I'm missing something here. Dave Rice, yeah, the Patriot Act is treason against the Constitution. Oh, absolutely. I agree with that. I think you all know that I've been there for a long time. Watch out for the bears, Roy. I don't know what kind of warning that is, but I got the wolves backing me up, okay? So we'll be all right. Yeah, Mike Guyver, you're absolutely right. Medical tyranny is the way that Hitler worked and Stalin, and I talked about that with the psychiatrists especially. Yeah, I've talked about medical tyranny is the back door in to controlling the people, and you're right on by them using the mental institutions. Absolutely, I know. Right, and we're the new criminals. That's right. Yeah, Carol Reed, thank you. Yeah, and they called it fake news. It's Biden's son was indicted yesterday in the Ukraine, along with the Burisma president or CEO. I know, and nothing here. They're calling it how do they say that? Fake news, whatever. They won't even talk about it. Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. It's incredible how bad our government is, how bad and how corrupt it is. And it's going to take force to fix it. I'm sorry. It's going to take force. There is no other way around it. And it's either going to happen under President Trump's direction and guidance, or it's going to be out of his control completely, and it's going to be done to him. It's going to be one way or the other. And we're too close to that door right now. I like that, Pamela Stupper. Instead of voting, we need yellow vests on voting day. I understand what you're saying. The ballot box is dead. It is. Voter fraud right now is rampant. Trump signed that executive order and has done nothing. We saw what happened in Kentucky. The governor's up in arms there. There are just so many problems, and nobody's doing anything. Where's Barr? Where's the election commission? Well, that's corrupt anyway, right? They've had 40, 30, 40, 50, maybe 60 years to infiltrate all of our institutions, and our illustrious FBI did nothing. As a matter of fact, it was one of the first institutions they took over. Yeah, Janet, we the people, this has been going on for months, all a show. Meanwhile, Patriot Act renewed. Yeah, right. Why did Trump shouldn't sign the bill? I don't care if we need funding or not. He shouldn't sign it. But he will. He will. I know. Lots of rhetoric. Doesn't match what's happening on the ground, I know. D. Johnson, don't tell me that. I know. Try taking down Satan, Roy. Yeah, I know. That's what Trump is up against. The darkness so deep you cannot even imagine. You don't think I know? When are you going to stop giving this guy a pass? He was the one that wanted the job. He was the one that said he was going to drain the swamp. Oh, he's doing that. Yeah. Oh, the judges. He's revealing the deep staters and all. Yeah. And Stone was raided by a SWAT. No, it was an army. General Flynn should have been dismissed a long time ago with the information that's come out. No, that hasn't happened. Look, you can pander to Trump all you want, if that's what you want to do. But trust and loyalty go both ways. If he wanted the job, he should have had a plan. And everybody says, oh, that's what he's doing. He's exposing him. It's going to happen. Did you see Lieutenant Colonel Vindman in his dress blue uniforms show up not once, but twice to testify against his commander-in-chief? On hearsay, did you see that, and do you understand the seriousness of that? I'll tell you what, D. Johnson, sometimes you just have to look Satan square in the eye and say, I'm coming for you. Because that's the only thing he understands. It's the only thing these people understand is force. You can't reach across and shake hands with evil. You can't negotiate with our rights with evil. I disagree with you 100%. There's a time element, and I've talked about it. My Republican insider says, Trump really needs to do more of these fireside chats, where he comes out and he tells the American people where things are. He's not done that. These rallies are worthless. He's talking to it's an echo chamber at his rallies. That's all those are. It's just to make him feel good. I hate to tell you that, but those rallies are not helping us at all. He's talking to the same people all the time, and it's for his ego. Bottom line. You may not like that, you may disagree with me, but just look at the results. Is he really going to win in a landslide in 2020 like all these pundits are saying because the Democrats are showing how stupid they are? How stupid are the American people? How stupid have we been for so many years? There was a Boston reporter back at the turn of the century, a Boston Globe reporter. I wish I could remember his name, but you can go look this up. Boston Globe reporter, and this is what he said. No man remained poor. Let's see, how did he say it? No man remained poor who I can't remember the exact words, but no man remained poor who underestimated the intelligence of the American people, the intelligence and taste of the American people. A Boston Globe reporter said that at the turn of the century. How much worse are we today? I've spent too long on D. Johnson's thing here. I'm not saying it's not a hard job, but he waited too long. It's like I said, the deep. If there were those that were waiting to see what was going to happen when he showed how weak he is, and that's what's happened, They now are, the entire DOD is standing up against him. Do you see that? And I told you how the coups work. You don't have to have the entire Department of Defense, the entire military to back the coup. You just have to have the right people in the right places. Go watch Valkyrie. I told you about that. And that's where Trump is today, because they perceived his inaction, whether or not he was trying to expose whatever, as weakness. Not one person on that other side has been arrested. Not one. His supporters have been bike locked, prevented from their First and Second Amendment rights, trumped up charges of process crimes. Assange, who was willing to show the war crimes of the United States, and he's imprisoned for it. Really? Really, D. Johnson? Really? Is Trump in danger? Does he have to, walk on eggs? He asked for the job. He said what he was going to do. Is he doing it? Well, I guess if you want to listen to Greg Jarrett and Dan Bongino and Joe DeGeneva, all of those people I like. Hannity, I stopped listening to him months ago. I got tired of same old thing all the time. All he is a cheerleader, and he loves the FBI. 99% of the FBI are good people. No, they're not. So you want to go listen to those guys? I like them. I like those guys. But they're either spending time on certain talking points, maybe trying to be positive, giving a positive review. But I'll tell you something, when you're out in the woods and you deny that bear is tracking you and is looking for you for food, and you just say that everything's okay, you're going to get your ass chewed up. Problem for action is long past. Carol Andrea, why wait? The enemy wants us all to wait. Yeah, well, there's another, and I agree with that, Kurt Landgraf. Yeah, see how much smiling they do then? You think they care? Have we all been played? It could be. It could be. It could be. I'm not sure. Those are wolves, not bears. Yeah, these are wolves. Oh, did somebody say bears? Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought they were pretty clear that they're wolves. Yeah, they're not bears. I see. Somebody said look out for the bears. No, yeah, they're wolves. Okay. Thanks for clearing that up for me, Gavin. I appreciate that. Mr. Wright HD, come on. Trump is not a well man and will be resigning soon. If he resigns, it's going to not be because he's sick, unless they've poisoned him. Assange has industrial grade body odor and is a groper. Okay, you shouldn't even be here. Where did you come from? The only reason why I address that is because both of those statements are ludicrous. If one of my, I'm not going to do it, but if one of my moderators wants to throw your ass out of here, that's fine with me, because I don't think that's funny. Barr loves Ray, Jack Kennedy, I know. That's what I'm saying. With all that Ray's done, obstructed the investigations, prevented the declassifications, on and on and on, gone after Stone, all of these things. I know. I can't trust Barr. I can't. Trump needs to repent. Dave Rice, I agree. Haven't I been calling for that, essentially? I have been. Several months ago, I was saying, he made promises to the American people and to God. And if he doesn't think that that's not going to cause him problems if he refuses to do it or thinks he can't, he can't do that now. You're right. He does need to repent. And that's interesting because I'm waiting. Hopefully, he will publicly repent to the world and say, I was wrong to promote certain things. I was wrong to ignore certain things. I was wrong not to trust God and fail to act. If he does that, then we know that things are going to look up. But until he does that, yeah, I agree. Okay, I'm going to speed through this. We've been going for over an hour, and I've got to get ready for tonight and some other things that I've got to do today. So let me just speed through here. And we've already talked about the Patriot Act, Cherry Zirkle. I understand what you're saying. Trump should veto it. I know, but he won't because it's linked to the spending bill. Shoot MS-13 on site. Be careful, Richard Fish. Okay. You don't want to be talking like that, trust me. Hey, Valor, how you doing? Nice to see you here. Okay, I'm going to speed down through here real quick. Sorry, I know I'm missing a lot of this, but really, I've got so many. A wolf in sheep's clothing or military clothing, sir? A wolf in sheep's clothing, military clothing, sir. Same thing today, isn't it? Isn't that the same thing? Yeah. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. I know you and I've crossed swords on some things a couple times, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate your point of view. And you never go to slander or just baseless accusations. You and I probably have a good talk one day if we ever got together. Wouldn't agree. Honestly, I know that for a fact, but that's not even important, right? It's if you can present good evidence, and I think you could do that. No sound on video you just showed. Well, Sandra, I don't know what the problem is there. Okay, I'm not going to even talk about it. If it didn't come across, it was my mic, but I don't know. Okay, American Renaissance explains it well. Karen Wilson. Okay, people should probably look at that. Yeah, deplorable. I like that. The Constitution assumes the various political parties could at least agree on one thing: the best interest of the nation. Today we are tugging at the wheel in opposite directions. The ship doesn't turn. I agree. Our nation is built on a concept that the people will be at least have some type of moral structure, a good moral structure, and that's gone a long time ago. And it's why I showed those pictures that I did from, and that wasn't a video. I see what you're saying. Those pictures that I put up of the news organization, that's not a video. That's just a picture. I just wanted you to look at them, okay? There was no video, just the pictures. And I did it for a reason. I didn't talk about it for a reason. Go back and read the captions in those pictures at the news broadcasts. That's why that behavior, and that's not just the only thing, okay? But that's indicative of why we're not a moral people anymore. And I'm not a prude. I don't agree with the marriage concepts of Christianity by and large on a number of levels. Or the way sex is viewed and all that, but I am vehemently opposed to perversion, okay? All right? I think you all should understand that Roy is on cue. That's a good play on words there, Josh. Yeah, North America has sat back and let the children go to war for them. Think about it. I know. And they've been killing children for years. I agree, Mike. I agree. That's what I'm saying. American people have not been the watchmen on the towers. They have not been the guardians of their own liberty. They have not. They've allowed themselves to be used for murder, mayhem, theft, and debauchery around the world. Yeah, Marine Corps Staff Sergeant. Well, not only that, he talks about Trump has failed us not speaking out against trans and LGBTQ issues. As I showed you in some clips sometime during the campaign, he held up the LGBTQ flag, and I said, that's another thing he did that really bothered me. The Clinton deal and that, because if he doesn't understand where that's going, that's a problem. Now, I'm not saying that we need to persecute him or any of that stuff, but promoting it is wrong, and I think I've talked about that quite a bit. Yeah, Brand Gardner, that was Utah. Yeah, and again, those aren't... all I did is take screenshots of the broadcast because I just wanted to show... I didn't want to put it up for obvious reasons, but I wanted to show you what's happening in the supposedly conservative Christian state of Utah. Yeah, right. Things have been a problem here for a long time. I knew about things when I was on the Murray Police Department I found out about, which I'm not going to discuss here today. And as I explained to you, Senator John DeCamp, who did the investigation and called the Franklin cover-up, he called me up and I assisted in a portion of the investigation on that. I'm very well aware that Utah, it's a whited sepulcher, if you understand what that means. Liberty for all, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. An executive order to restore the republic. None of his executive orders have any teeth. Liberty for all, none of them. He's acted on none of them. So I wouldn't care if he did. How's he going to enforce it? Hank McKirk, you're saying, of course the American people are a force for good. Good doesn't stand idly by and let evil occur. Think about that. Okay, I'd love to keep going, but it's been an hour, almost an hour and 15 minutes. So let's shut this down. I appreciate you coming today. Again, look at the description box below where I have Governor Huckabee's little 5-minute dissertation there on the deep state. Send it far and wide. Show it to everybody. And it's going to impress some people, it won't others. But it's like anything else. You at least got to speak up, and having him speak for you is a good way to do it. Again, I'm going to point out that we're going to have our little discussion tonight on Nightcap at 8:30 p.m. Oh, whoa, I moved my thing there. There we go. Sorry about that. 8:30 p.m. Mountain on this subject right here. We're going to talk about the Shroud of Turin. And you might say, well, another religion thing. I think the take on this time is going to be of use to you and interest. And also, we're going to take your comments, of course, on the chat. And you can chat amongst each other, and I'll try to follow it. Again, I won't get to everybody, but I'm looking for specific questions. I'm actually not as knowledgeable on the Shroud of Turin as even my son is. Jeremy, he knows a lot more. I'd love to get him on to talk about it, but I think that since I don't, that would be difficult to do. It would be better if he was in studio, which that won't be possible. And I know some other very good people that I could have on, but they're not going to do it. Okay, so we're going to take off on our own. We're going to discuss some things. I want to hear some of your feelings on the subject, and we'll address all that. I think it's going to be an interesting evening. Okay, and I have a little treat for you about a little jaunt I took yesterday. Because it's a little piece of Americana. And of course, Nightcap is supposed to be kind of enjoyable, so we'll be showing you something that I don't know how interesting it'll be, but it'll definitely be a break, okay? And it is a piece of Americana. So please join us tonight at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time for Nightcap, and we'll talk about the Shroud of Turin and why it's important and where it stands today, both in the religious, well, let's say all three things, in the religious, spiritual, and scientific realms. And when I say scientific, I mean technology. Okay? All right. Thanks, everybody. We're out here for now. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Keep your situational awareness on high. Remember, we've got to start acting on and form our own sanctuary locations. However you want to view that, whether it be with your governors, your sheriffs, your mayors, whatever, but at least personally, your own sanctuary areas. Okay? If we don't stand by the Constitution, nobody's going to stand for us. I did a video there a while back because a judge said it to me in court. He said, you must belligerently defend your rights in this court. You must belligerently defend your rights. Not by violence, I'm not saying that. But you have to stand for them and not budge and insist upon them. Okay? All right, everybody. See you tonight at 8:30. Thanks a bunch. Out here. 8:30 Mountain. Out here.